got a bit of a WrestleMania hangover, and we're going to see if we can deal with that with quite an interesting card. So we'll be breaking down that right after this.
Welcome to the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. On this channel, we bring you some great content from inside and outside of the squared circle. We will go through and offer some in-depth analysis of the biggest events of the year, as well as bringing you exclusive interviews with some of the industry's biggest names. There will also be live show reviews, in-depth features, and podcasts. So make sure you give that subscribe button a slam so you don't miss any of the action.
All right, once again, guys, welcome back to the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. Thanks for tuning in. It is time to kick off a big weekend in pro wrestling. Anytime the WWE hit you with a PLE, it's time for us to come back and break down that card and get you hyped up and in the mood for the big PLE weekend. This time, of course, it's coming from Tampa, Florida. And yeah, I'm looking forward to this one. I mean, look, there is always a slump after WrestleMania. We haven't even been on air since the releases, which is always, again, at this time of year, seems to be something that knocks people. So Backlash is, you know, it's always got a lot of kind of things going against it, in my opinion. And sometimes they go down the route of rematch mania, and sometimes they try and freshen it up. I think they've gone for the freshening up thing this time, but even when they do that, sometimes it can be a bit of a placeholder, and I think that might be a bit of a common theme as we make our way through the card here. But that's what we're going to do. We're going to break down the card itself. I'm going to give predictions. This is being recorded just a few hours before SmackDown goes on the air as well, so we'll be talking kind of Raw go home reactions, and then of course on the build-up show we'll be back live on the night of the PLE, as we always are, to kind of break down the card and all the last minute rumors as well. But as I say, you're tuned into the weekend kickoff show. This is the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel, and as I mentioned, on Saturday you'll also see the build-up show. This would also be featured as part of the early section of that show as well, as far as replays go. But look, you're with me live on Friday night, so let's talk about where we are at the moment. And yeah, again, we are close to the PLE itself. Let's get to some of these comments here as well, flying in already. Jesse says, is it tomorrow? Yes, the show is tomorrow, or in our universe, Friday night at the moment. Casper's here, good to see you, buddy. Says, good evening, Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling, hope you're doing well. I was shell-shocked after some of the wrestling releases, Casper says. Yeah, me too. Some of them, even when you do go, oh, I can kind of understand where that comes from. I was saying this to some friends the other day, like, they're still, I don't want to say avoidable, because in some cases, like, it's just turnover and that's just the way businesses go, right? But in some of the ones where you go, oh, I can see that because they haven't done much lately, a lot of times you're like, well, or the last thing didn't work that they did. It's like, well, it didn't work because, like, they weren't given anything good, you know? So I know it can be a kind of, you know, can go in both ways, really. But yeah, for me, some of the releases were just a bit kind of a slap in the face of, like, that could have worked if there was a bit more investment in them. Yeah, again, some of that might come up because I think some of it, weirdly enough, plays into storylines we're going to be talking about for Backlash as well. But let's get to the card itself. As I say, you will join us on a weekend preview show. We've got the US Championship on the line. Trick Williams, of course, having picked up the victory at WrestleMania, will defend against the former champion Sami Zayn. Man, things have changed since these two faced at WrestleMania. We've also got Danhausen, who at the moment is still yet to announce his tag team partner at time of recording, going up against Kit Wilson and The Miz. Another match we've got is Asuka going up against Iyo Sky in a grudge match. Then we also have, talking of grudge matches, Seth freaking Rollins versus Bron Breakker, of course, his old running buddy from the Vision, now bitter enemies. And surely what will be the main event is the World Heavyweight Champion Roman Reigns defending the title against Jacob Fatu. So again, that is the card for Backlash this weekend at time of recording. So let's get into it. Let's talk about predictions, things like that. I want to know what match you're most looking forward to as well. So keep your comments coming. And again, hopefully you'll join us on the night of the PLE where we will talk last minute rumors as well. But at time of recording on Friday night, these are my thoughts and opinions on the build and where we are looking as we head into the weekend itself. Again, thank you for tuning in to this weekend kickoff preview. Right, without further ado, let's get into the card and breaking down each and every one of those matches individually. And first off, we mentioned it a moment ago, of course, is the US Championship. Sami Zayn going up against Trick Willie, trying to get that title away from the man with the lemon pepper steppers. He won't do it. Quick prediction for you there. He won't do it, and he shouldn't do it. And to me, Sami Zayn should be kept away from mid-card titles anyway, because I think he should have been winning the world title right about 2 years ago. I know there are people who view this channel and on this very channel and guests at this very channel when we do our build-up show as well, our friends in the rest of the media world, who might not agree with me there. But look, I can't deny that at the moment there's a real slump for Sami Zayn. And again, I think that's something that could have been prevented as well. Much like other storylines that I say didn't work, and maybe factoring into releases and stuff like that. But for me, they've missed that opportunity now, and they're trying something different, and I do appreciate that. So they are clearly, Sami Zayn is a bad guy. Trick Williams is a good guy, and there was a lot of debate about whether or not they would do a double turn at WrestleMania. It didn't really happen on the night. It's just a continuation of that gradual change of both characters kind of going in that direction. But watching the highlights of last week's SmackDown, where Sami beat up the Gingerbread Man, again, I mentioned this as we head into WrestleMania. I wasn't a fan of that stuff, but if they're going to do it, make the best out of it, I guess. And I think they've started to do that, at least there's some comedic bits with it. But yeah, it just felt really off. As much as I like Trick Williams, and I think he is, was naturally being turned into a babyface by the fans, I just felt like when I actually saw it executed this past Friday on SmackDown, last week's SmackDown, as I say, it felt off. The chemistry, people were cheering Trick, but because he was a bad guy, it's a bit of a weird dilemma. I don't think, it just made me think about Trick as a good guy in NXT, which was good as well, but he was much better as I've enjoyed him much more as a heel, and yeah, naturally he was going to turn into a good guy anyway, but I just can't help but feel it, because of the slow burn, it just feels a little kind of not cemented, and it feels like I'm watching the same characters that did, I don't know. Some would argue the sharper turn would have been more harder to kind of adjust to, and maybe a slow burn is better. Maybe in some storylines, but in this one, I just can't help but feel like both of them are still in the wrong role. And again, that's what it felt like going into WrestleMania. It felt like the heel wasn't the heel and the good guy wasn't the good guy. And I still feel the same way now that they've actually switched. It just feels, I don't know, something is not satisfying about this feud. But again, maybe that's because of my own hang-ups about what I want for both guys. But look, the match itself, I thought they had a good match at WrestleMania. I think they'll probably have a decent match here as well. Lil Yachty's still around as well, so yeah, he's still involved, of course. But yeah, I just I don't see Sami Zayn winning this, and this is always going to be the problem with Backlash. It always feels like they don't really want to reverse the things they've done at WrestleMania. Reversing the title change so quickly is not usually something they do anyway, but doing it after WrestleMania and basically not voiding the results, but kind of going back on it in some sense, I think is always something they try and stay away from, I feel. So I don't see it happening this time. I don't see Sami Zayn coming away with a championship. If he does, I'll be very shocked, and I just don't know where they'd be going with that. I mean, Trick, he's the good guy now, and he's a champion. Might as well just stay that way. So let's get some of these comments here as well. JC Mateo and Tonga Loa gone. The Kyrie was a shock. Yes, Casper, we're going to get to that in a little bit, especially the Kyrie one, because of course it does factor into one of the matches that will be featured on this card. Sludge is in the house, says, yo, I'm going to SmackDown today. Oh, fantastic, Sludge. Hope you have a great time. Yeah, let us know how it is. Join us on the build-up show on Saturday, and yeah, let us know how it goes. Fantastic. Hope you enjoy it, mate. I think Trick Williams will win this match. He's only just won the belt, says Casper, just a few weeks ago at WrestleMania 42. Yeah, I'm along the same lines as you as well. The Gingerbread Man's funeral was tonight on SmackDown. I'm struggling to see what Craig was trying to do at this point. Look, now I gotta be honest. As much as I said I didn't like the Gingerbread Man, That's made me laugh because I didn't know that was the case. I was gonna run through some of the SmackDown card. Again, this is being recorded, of course. If you're watching live, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But if you're watching on demand, this is being recorded before SmackDown. Okay, I see it here. Trick Williams hosts a funeral for the Gingerbread Man. All right, I'm looking forward to that at least. Just because of the weirdness. Yeah, also on SmackDown, Jacob Fatu's kicking it off before challenging Roman Reigns at Backlash. It says Rhea Ripley, Charlotte Flair, and Alexa Bliss join forces to take on Fatal Influence again. The continuation of last week's shenanigans. Gunther is going to address his attack on Cody Rhodes as well. So a lot of that doesn't really play into Backlash. Of course, Jacob and Roman we'll get to. They had a really kind of fiery end to Monday Night Raw as well. But yeah, Trick Williams hosting the Gingerbread Man's funeral. We'll see how that one goes. Right. That's really thrown me, that. All right, let's get into the next match that is on the Backlash card. And it's Danhausen and TBA versus the Miz and Kit Wilson. I got to say, I'm really pleased about this one. I think these are three guys, there'll be a fourth, who really deserve something here. I think they've all been doing fantastic work. I mean, the first to pop up and make a name recently, at least, would be Kit Williams. Trick Williams, Kit Wilson. There we go. Kit Wilson, I think he's been amazing since his unfortunate situation where his tag partner, of course, got injured and he kind of got left in the wilderness on his own. But I think he's done incredible on his own. I say on his own, now he's teaming with Miz, don't get me wrong, but his character and all that has developed individually, and he's kind of now paired with the Miz, who's always just slot him in a position and he'll do a job, and he'll do a really good job at that. So really pleased to just anytime the Miz gets featured, because he's usually making someone else look good, and for me, I really appreciate that. So they've done really fun stuff between the two of them, but also Danhausen in there as well, who, as I said to Lucas as we're heading into WrestleMania, he's one of my favorite things about WWE at the moment. So weird looking back to that reaction, right, when he debuted and people were frustrated and annoyed, which even at the time I thought was ridiculous, that people felt that way. It was, to me, it was obvious for the most part it was probably going to be some Danhausen or something like that. I don't know what people expected, The Rock or something maybe. But yeah, for me, ever since then, I think he's really won the audience over, and I think he's been fantastic. Who's going to be his surprise tag partner? Look, it might get announced on SmackDown, so this may be dated by the time you watch it on demand or on the replay section at the earlier part of the build-up show. But just in case it's not, I'm just going to dive into my prediction here and say maybe Jelly Roll. I don't really see what else they could do. I don't really see any characters that link. I mean, I know there is that kind of link with him and CM Punk in real life. On air, R-Truth's a similar kind of character, if as far as comedic value, but of course he's tied up with Damian Priest, so it's not necessary there. So I don't really know off the top of my head who they could put with him. Any suggestions, guys? Put them in the comments. Let me know what you think is going to happen as far as his tag team match goes and the surprise partner of Danhausen. But for me, it's either going to be something really silly or what's his face again? I've lost it now. But you know what I just said a minute ago. Jelly Roll, there we go. Talking to something silly. But no, I got to be honest. Jelly Roll, I think, seems like a nice dude and has done well since he's been in WWE, despite his kind of lack of being a wrestler. So yeah, I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. I mean, last PLE, of course, WrestleMania, there was so much talk about the celebrity involvement being overdone. A lot of rumours that Jelly Roll or assumptions that Jelly Roll would have been a little bit more involved than he actually was, and I think they tastefully did it in the end, probably considering all the backlash, no pun intended. So yeah, I think this might be where Jelly Roll gets involved. To not promote it, which is why I think they could say something on SmackDown, to not promote is a little weird. Big star like that, it's the whole point of why they're doing it. So they would have held back, it would seem, at WrestleMania, and then also somewhat held back for the effect of the surprise here as well, so you don't really get the full thing out of it. But then at the same time, the headlines are still going to be the same after the show. It might not get the eyes on the show originally, but replay value in online kind of stuff, clips, it'll certainly be there anyway. So yeah, Jelly Roll and Danhausen versus Miz and Kit Wilson. I mean, man, if I would have said that a year ago, I would have been thinking someone was talking about, you know, fantasy booking on their WWE game. But yeah, looking forward to this because it's just silly, and I've enjoyed everything that they've done together so far. And I think you need that on the card. You know, I know when we get to the build-up show, we're going to have more members of the Rebellious Noise team on there. I got a feeling Lucas is going to feel the same way about it. You know, we've talked in the past about having that different kind of comedy relief here and there, and just something to kind of freshen up the card. And I do think this is an occasion to do that, and they deserve to be on the PLE. You know, often it's the same characters, and these kind of storylines, as good as they can become, just end up being weekly storylines and payoffs on weekly shows. So, yeah, for me, I'm pretty pleased to see this on the PLE card. Some people might think it's not PLE quality for that reason, but no, it'll be an entertaining moment on the night. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Casper says, Ricky Saints needs a stronger showing on SmackDown tonight, and Danhausen and his partner match should be a fun Carmelo Hayes. Oh, yeah, or Mr. Iguana. Could be a number of people. Yeah, there's a few names in there. It certainly could be Casper. So, yeah, appreciate that. Yeah, when it comes to the result, I mean, obviously, it's a little bit tough to predict when you don't know who the partner is. I mean, the comedic foil, you know, it's always been, you know, the heel in these kind of things, and the past few weeks has kind of been that way as well. They've got their one up on, you know, Danhausen things to get their, you know, the one up on the Miz and Kit Wilson. So maybe this will be different because, I mean, it's not like Miz needs it, and Kit Wilson's a somewhat comedic character anyway, as well. So maybe it's not needed there either. I don't think it's the worst thing in the world if Danhausen loses, because he can get a bit of sympathy as well. But I also don't think that character needs it. You know, he's kind of just that kind of, I guess that, yeah, just like a wacky kind of, yeah, gets away with it type character, you know. So, yeah, a bit of a pest, bit of a nuisance, and just kind of charming with it. So I don't think the result matters at all, if I'm honest. But I could see it more likely being Danhausen and his mystery partner, especially if it is a celebrity like Jelly Roll. Because, yeah, again, Miz and Kit Wilson taking a finish from Jelly Roll or whoever it may be, or Danhausen, isn't out of the question for me. So, yeah, I'm going with Danhausen and whoever he's with to win this one. Casper agrees, says I do think Danhausen team is going to win this one as well. Yeah, good. Great minds think alike, don't they, mate? Let's get to the next one, though. We've got Kairi Sane versus Asuka. Now, this is, again, that example I've alluded to a few times on this stream already, of where a release is really weird and unfortunate. Of course, Kairi Sane is no longer with the company. There are rumours going around that they might even still use her at Backlash to tie up the feud, which kind of gives me vibes of the R-Truth return. What was it, last year now? Similar in some sense, but very different in another as well. And I think if they did do it, it wouldn't be about her getting a job back. It would be about this one moment. If they did it as a bit of a swerve, it'd be, again, very similar to what they did for the R-Truth thing, because, I mean, I've seen 24, but I still don't know how much I'll buy it. Or when the decision was made and why it was made and all that weirdness. Either way, just weird. Weirdness here as well. I don't know. I mean, I think I can understand why WWE probably looked at it and thought, well, she's not actually vital for this story, even though from afar you would have assumed that it would have had a big pop when she turned on Asuka or something like that. But then where would they have gone? I just don't see them, you know, let's say she's not been released. Let's say this is a month ago. I'd be saying the same thing. I don't see them pushing Kairi Sane, even though it's ridiculous because she's such a great talent and arguably was more over, I felt, in NXT, or like it felt like the bigger star out of her and Iyo for a bit. Iyo has definitely massively taken over that spot. Asuka herself obviously was in that spot years ago, and she's stepped back, and you know, and this feud is kind of telling that story in some sense. You know, the master and the kind of apprentice. But yeah, for me, it is a shame that Kairi's not involved. If she does get involved here, cool. I'd like to see her. But like, bring her back then. But then it's like, why don't they bring anyone else back? So what? Just because that story is kind of still going on. But then at the same time, it's that argument of it's weird when they do this, when they get rid of people when they're in stories or they've just been in stories. You know, the White Six, they were just in a story. But again, another example of where they could have been doing more. I mean, Kairi Sane was definitely a background character in this, quite literally, quite a lot of the times. And yeah, it could have been more. So a real shame, but let's not take away from those that are still there. I'm sure Kyrie would want these two to get the credit and attention and focus that they deserve. This is a feud that's been building for a long time now. Of course, you've had Rhea Ripley in and around it as well. Now it's just a one-on-one situation, it would seem, with Asuka and Kairi Sane. Asuka and Iyo Sky. I think Iyo should win because, yeah, it's not for a title or anything like that, but Iyo, out of the two of them, right, Iyo is the future. They don't need, unless Asuka won and was being, like, really over the top using weapons and then Kairi come out to make the save and Asuka still gets the win. I don't see a need for Asuka to win. I mean, I'm past the whole Asuka deserves more and should get more. I still think she should have at many times, but at the same time, she definitely is kind of over that, you know, the other side of the hill when it comes to her career in WWE, right? So she's not going to be the one they're pushing to become world champion or anything like that. I mean, she could hold that spot, don't get me wrong, but I'm talking long term here. It's not really looking that way for Asuka, so I don't think there's any need to protect her in that sense. Io's the one out of the two of them that probably needs that more at this stage. Asuka versus Iyo Sky and Kairi 50-50. She might show up. Should be interesting, says Casper. Yeah, I'm not sure if she will show up. I know there are a lot of rumors about it, but yeah, even that, again, I just feel like it would muddy the waters and it'd be a bit strange. But yeah, wish the best for her, as I do everybody who got released. There are some really kind of good talents that have been released, and it's always a shame to see that happen. But hey, they can go somewhere else and hopefully the grass will be greener for him there as well. But yeah, that's where we're at with Iyo Sky versus Asuka. For me, again, as I say, Asuka doesn't need the win. Iyo, it's not a massive deal breaker for me if Iyo doesn't win, but I think she's more likely to kind of be booked that way. So yeah, for me, I'm going for Iyo Sky on this one. Now, as I say, you're tuned into the Weekend Kickoff show, and that's what we're doing. We're kicking off the weekend for Backlash. Of course, the show comes live from Tampa on Saturday night here in the UK. It starts, I think, 11 p.m, so a few hours earlier for us than usual as well, so I'm looking forward to that. We'll be hitting you with a build-up show on the night of the PLE, as we always do, to try and get you hyped up and in the mood and talk last-minute rumours and get our friends from the wrestling media world and other members of the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling panel to give their thoughts and last-minute predictions as well. So make sure you tune into that on Saturday night. You may be tuned in already and watching this as part of the replay section on there. If you are, stay tuned on Saturday night for the live portion of the build-up show. But let me get to this comment from Casper. It says, I was a bit disappointed Aleister Black was just let go again. Yeah, it was such a weird return, wasn't it, Casper? You know, just a year, and again, not much happened, right? He just came back a year ago, as Casper says, and big plans for JC. Mataro heard he had a big push. Like, yeah, JC just nosedive straight away. I mean, I like the MFTs, but it was clear for a long time, like, even the ones that they got rid of, like it was, what's weird about the JC Mataro one is that he was massively over before he got there. And then, you know, Talatonga, you know, you can see why they'd want to keep him. Tamatonga's great talent. Tungaloa, it didn't seem to be clicking for him at times. So him and JC seemed the most likely to be in the chopping block. It's weird that they've continued that feud and moved them into, you know, the Bloodline story again, without acknowledgement of the rest of the MFTs. Like Tamatonga wasn't with them on last week's SmackDown, for example, either. I don't know, just to move them away and freshen it up, maybe, or kind of make us forget, and it was just Solo and Talatonga. But yeah, it's just another strange example of a few continuing, like the Asuka and Iyo Sky one. There was another one. I just thought of another one, but I can't remember. I've forgotten it now. But there was another one like that I remember. Maybe it was last year's releases where they did the same sort of thing. But anyway, let's move on to the next match on the card we're going to predict, and it is Seth freaking Rollins versus Bron Breakker. An interesting match, because I think this could be a main event, right? I mean, especially if you put a title over the shoulder of Mr. Rollins right there, as he would have had a few months ago. You could have seen this as being well, maybe even WrestleMania worthy when it comes to the championship. For me, Bron Breakker's got to get a win. He's looked really strong lately. Looked very strong on Raw. The way he threw Montez Ford over the ring, by the way, was hilarious. A credit to Montez as much as it is a credit to Bron Breakker there. But yeah, for me, Bron Breakker's got to win this one because Seth Rollins just, he's cemented. Again, I'm not going to say I don't think he's low as Asuka is in the pecking order as far as kind of that, Asuka is, future Hall of Famer, so is Seth Rollins. Asuka, she's got less world titles ahead of her than she's had in the past, in my opinion. Seth's probably the same, but that's more so because Seth has been such a big star for WWE. It's kind of the same trajectory on a bigger scale, maybe, but I don't think it's just a bigger hill. Let's say that because he's reached a bigger mountaintop, I feel, Seth Rollins, because of the way WWE have used and booked him. So, look, not that I think he's at the bottom of it on the other side, don't get me wrong, all these analogies about hills and mountains, but what I'm getting at is I don't think, again, it's his time to, protect him so much. I think it's about pushing Bron Breakker. Bron Breakker's climbing up his mountain, and I think he's the one that needs to win here because he had a bit of a setback after the loss to CM Punk, and on the Raw Netflix debut anniversary they did beginning of January to celebrate a year on Netflix. So I think it's a bit of a strange time for Bron Breakker. Obviously, come back at WrestleMania was a big surprise, attacking Seth Rollins. Yeah, you could argue Seth therefore needs to get one up on him, but I think overall it's Bron Breakker that needs to win this feud. I liked his promo with Seth, where he was saying about him and Bronson Reed in the background, and he was sick of hearing the same stuff and all this kind of stuff. I do think they pulled the trigger too early because they kind of were forced into it with injuries and stuff like that. The surprise of him attacking Seth, when he did turn, was really good, to be fair, even though, again, it didn't feel like the original plan to go there early, at least. So, yeah, it's been a bit of a strange year, really. The division were formed, just over a year ago, right? Just after WrestleMania 41, and it's not been as successful as I would have hoped. There were things I liked about it. I felt like it was a bit of a slow burn. I know Lucas really was down on them for quite some time, and the fact they didn't have a name and stuff like that didn't help. But I actually was quite enjoying their work. Even at the moment, like I'm glad Logan Paul's in the group. I'm glad Austin Theory's got something, but they're completely different now. It feels like when Curtis Axel and Cesaro became Paul Heyman guys, and then it just kind of got quietly forgotten about, because again, Paul Heyman involved. But yeah, getting back to the match itself, I think Bron Breakker's got to win this one. It's just no point in giving the win to Seth Rollins. He's come back, and glad to see him back. Glad he's doing well after his injury, but it's all about pushing Bron Breakker. Unless this feud goes much longer, which it could, but again, you could argue it's been in the making for over a year. Does it really need to go much longer anyway? But have we reached that crescendo? It's kind of hard to know when you haven't got those original ingredients, right? Like Bronson Reed around as well. Who knows when he's going to come back? So it does depend. If this is the end of the feud, but I kind of see it not being, actually. So if that's the case, then I would maybe say there's a chance for Seth to win. But just to kind of keep it simple, I think I'm going to say Bron Breakker. If he doesn't win this, he wins the feud, and that's the way it should be as well. What else do we have? Cody Beerus in the house. Always good to see you. Thanks for tuning in over on Twitch. So tonight's a sad moment. What's the sad moment for? What have I missed? What are we sad about? Casper says, I did feel WWE Backlash. I wasn't feeling the build up a few weeks ago, but Bron Breakker needs to win, and Seth might go over and Bron beat down on Seth, but I'm getting into the hype a bit now. Yeah, okay, good. I'm glad you're enjoying the story, mate, and what they're telling lately. I can kind of see what you're saying there, that maybe Bron does a big beatdown at the end, regardless if he wins, essentially. To be fair, he should really bring out the rest of the division, even if Bronson Reed's not there, right? They should tie it up into the division again, especially if they're going to continue this feud. It's probably what they need to do. But then Seth conquering the division just seems a bit weird. Him on his own just seems a bit weird. There's a lot of noise coming out of WWE right now. It's not just constant 24/7 noise and no break in the news. There's a lot going on. WWE at the moment. I mean, there was a lot of stuff about the contracts, weren't they? And rumours of people taking 50% pay cuts and stuff like that. I'm sure that would be an interesting topic for us to dive into on the build-up show as well. But yeah, as you said, there's a lot going on with WWE. It's always a weird time of year, as I mentioned earlier on. And this PLE can suffer because of it. But I'm hoping it does deliver. I mean, I think it's a good card overall. So let's see where we go with it. Let's get into the main event, though. What's surely going to be the main event is the World Heavyweight Championship match between Roman Reigns and Jacob Fatu. Now, this one is one I'm looking forward to because I think it's an interesting feud, but one I kind of... Backlash and Royal Rumble the same in that they tend to have these stopgap championship matches, and that's what I feel like this is going to be. If Roman loses the belt straight away, I'd be shocked. But at the same time, maybe I wouldn't, because maybe it's just a way to put on Jacob Fatu. I mean, you talk about a person who's kind of hype died down and lost a bit of their momentum. Jacob Fatu certainly was out, especially when he came back and it was confusion around whether or not he was a heel and then kind of attacking Cody and all that kind of stuff. He just didn't feel the same as when he went away, when he had turned naturally into a babyface. I will say, though, the past few weeks, I think he's really ramped back up. I think he's a really intriguing character again. But, again, that confusion about whether he's a babyface or a heel is not helped by the fact that it's the same thing with Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns, I think, technically is a good guy. And, therefore, you want to assume that who he goes against is going to be a bad guy. And Jacob Fatu is pretty much a good guy, but he's acting a bit like a bad guy. So, it's a bit confusing. I know it's not always going to be babyface heel dynamic, and they've said that in the past that they don't necessarily have to have it that way all the time, but it definitely helps. Confusing, kind of times like this, because I just don't know if they're getting the right reactions that they want. If Jacob wins it, there will be a lot of people that are upset that Roman's not the champ anymore. Whether it be little kids who just want to follow the babyface and they think Roman is the babyface, or it'll be, the huge amount of fans that despite any kind of issue with Roman Reigns, they're going to cheer him. Look, there are people that cheered him when he was not as kind of cool in my eyes, when he was the big dog, and I always thought there was potential in him. But obviously, we've been here a million times talking about the past of Roman Reigns and that switch become, that when he became the tribal chief and all that, and that completely kind of new side of his character and how much of a kind of revolution to his career and WWE that was. But there are people that were just fans of the big dog all along, and will always be a fan of the big dog. And if he goes up against anyone else, then he wants the big dog. They want the big dog to win. Then you get the people that kind of maybe newer fans never saw that side of it and only ever saw the cool Roman Reigns, and therefore he's the coolest thing they've ever seen. And whether he's a babyface or a heel, ultimately he's their tribal chief and they want him to win as well. So I think it's a risky move to put Jacob in his position, as much as I do think naturally he would be in his position. And I think naturally that is a good story to tell, Jacob versus Roman, but there are no kind of clear lines defined as far as their, babyface heel dynamic. And I think that's a problem. Saying that, I've enjoyed the work they've done together. Both of them have done good heel work and good babyface work. I really liked on Raw the ending, the Tongan death grip, and I liked how Roman basically was saying, like, that's the kind of thing you do when you're desperate in a bar fight because you just want to take the guy out. You don't do that to your family. You don't use those kind of things with family. I like that. I thought it was a really cool story he was telling there. Also, telling a good story, the terror in his eyes and looking towards Alan Pearce, like, as if to say, like, are you going to help me? Like, I thought it was such a cool bit of selling from Roman Reigns. So, really like what I'm seeing there. Obviously, again, this has been recorded just before SmackDown. Jacob Fatu is going to basically kick off SmackDown, talk about his match, I'm sure. So it'd be interesting to see who kind of comes out on top before we head into the PLE itself. But as of this show, at the moment, Jacob Fatu is looking the one on top, which usually means they're not going to win. I don't know if Roman's going to be on SmackDown, so it might just feel the same way if Jacob comes out and says a few things and yada mean, and that's it. And technically looks like he's on top of the feud, and therefore Roman defeats him at Backlash. But either way, I think Roman does defeat him at Backlash. I think Jacob becoming world champion isn't a bad idea, particularly the World Heavyweight title. But the whole reason why I wanted the World Heavyweight Championship around the waist of Roman Reigns in the first place was because I felt like he should give it a bit of credibility, but not for too long. But this would be too short. I think, you still got him in the record books. You still see that title around his waist. in promotional things and historical kind of imagery and stuff like that in years to come. But at the same time, I don't think a month is enough really to kind of build to where they need this title and where they need the challenger to be. Again, I think eventually Jacob Fatu winning it makes sense, and I think Jacob Fatu beating Roman Reigns is pretty cool as well. They've thrown the Usos back in here now as well, which again is basically we're back where we were a few years ago, and there are problems with that, but there also, I got to admit, there are things that I'm just like, whatever, I like the Bloodline. So we got them back, but again, there are problems in Bloodline, right? So all those same problems crop up. Is it going to be more members and all this kind of stuff? I mean, they've played into it already with Solo and Talatonga, and what's going to happen there? Why are they involved in this feud? So maybe that's what happens. Maybe Solo costs Jacob Fatu, and we go back to them facing each other, and that kind of helps Jacob become more of a babyface and build back up again. But at the same time, are we not just going back to where we were a few months ago? Roman goes off to do something else, I don't know, or Solo gets involved and it becomes a triple threat next PLE, and maybe that's the way to go actually, because I think Solo deserves something as well. He's really fallen into the background, and I think he's done some of his best work this past year. So they took some of his stable away from him. I think it'd be nice for him to kind of get some sort of reward. So if this is all about getting him back into the kind of main event scene, then I'm for it in that sense. Let's get some of these comments here. Casper says, Roman Reigns and Jacob Fatu, I'm looking forward to it, but I wasn't feeling this at the start, but should be a good match, to be fair. Just because Roman Reigns, WWE status, I'm thinking Jacob could win. That's a good point. Yeah, again, all these rumours going around, particularly around Roman Reigns, right? He was advertised for dates. They said it was a kind of admin error, essentially, that it was taken off. It was never actually supposed to be there, they were saying. Interesting, right? Who knows what's the truth? But yeah, Casper says, I'm going to go for Roman Reigns to beat Jacob Fatu. But Roman Reigns is pulled for all the June dates, as I just alluded to there. Why I was thinking Jacob Fatu might go over. Yeah, Casper, I think that's a good point, actually. If that is the case, if there is truth in that, then you could be right. You could be right that Jacob Fatu is the easy way to get off of him. And again, maybe this is what they were doing all along. They needed to get the title off of Punk and onto Jacob Fatu, because maybe as much as I say, you've got this weird babyface heel dynamic between the two cousins, it would have been even weirder maybe with Punk, because at least Roman acts like a heel, But then you also had that with Roman and Punk, right? They were both a bit heelish and babyface-ish. But yeah, I think ultimately, for me, Jacob Fatu should win the feud, or someone should benefit from Roman, being the champion slayed, right? I think this whole thing of taking the title off of Punk has to be worth something, and I think that's why they've done it. Although having watched most of the Hogan documentary recently, it does kind of remind me of that, how they just kind of were like, well, he's the one that makes us loads of money, right? Let's just put a belt on him, as they often did with Hogan. So hopefully that's not what we're seeing with Roman Reigns, and it is designed to kind of put someone else over. And is that someone else Jacob Fatu? As I say, maybe, but I don't see it happening at Backlash. If Jacob Fatu comes out of Backlash with the World Heavyweight Championship risen above his head, I will be pleasantly surprised, but I'd also be quite frustrated in some sense, because as I say, I feel like, ironically, I can't believe I'm saying it after the long reign that Roman had, when we were all kind of thinking, when's it going to end? There's always a risk that we're going to get another one, it feels like, right? If we don't get off him quick enough, we might end up there. But I just think 1 month is kind of too short, considering that long kind of reign as well. I mean, Reigns himself has not looked the strongest since he lost to Cody Rhodes, right? He's been involved with high profile matches, but he's not been on like a dominant role or anything like that. So he's finally got to the top of the mountain again. On the other side, of course, with the here's another mountain analogy, with a different title this time. But yeah, it'd be weird, in my opinion, to take it off him this quickly, even though I feel like the whole point is to put someone over, and it probably is going to be Jacob Fatu. But saying that, as I mentioned, Backlash sometimes just throws up these random stopgap feuds, and maybe that's what we're getting with Jacob. And the idea is that they just expose Jacob to that level, and working with someone like Reigns and being in the title picture, that it rubs off on him, even if he's not going to win the title, kind of like they've done with LA Knight a few times. God, just remembering there how LA Knight, they never pulled the trigger on that guy. But yeah, I think they will pull the trigger on Jacob Fatu. I just don't know if it's going to be a Backlash. So I'm going to go with Roman Reigns picking up the victory, your tribal chief, your OTC, coming out as World Heavyweight Champion. All right, so that is the card in full, guys, and that brings us to the end of the predictions. Thank you so much for tuning in for this weekend, the kickoff show. If you haven't already, please subscribe and check out more of our content. Again, this is being recorded on Friday night. If you are watching on the replay part of the build-up show, then stay tuned for that, because that will be live very, very soon. But if you're with me on Friday night, then make sure you subscribe so that you see when you get notification, I should say, for the build-up show as well. Make sure you press that little bell button to get those notifications. But yeah, if you are new here, then I appreciate you tuning in. I mentioned LA Knight a moment ago. We've also been privileged enough to have the opportunity to interview LA Knight. So if you haven't already, as I say, subscribe, check out more content on this channel. It's not just previews and reviews of PLEs. We often do content outside of that, such as interviewing some of your favorite WWE superstars. A big shocking story recently, of course, was the release of the New Day. We were privileged enough to interview Big E when he was WWE champion a while ago. And yeah, I wish we got to interview the other two members of the New Day, because they just seem like great guys. And yeah, what a crazy story that was, man. Talking about weird releases. I mean, I know they apparently negotiated themselves out of it, but man, there is so much I want to dive into with the rest of the panel when we get to the build-up show. So make sure you stay tuned for that as well, because again, there's so much going on, as Casper says, in the world of WWE news. Also said more releases. Was a bit disappointed about the Wyatt 6, but I do get it. They didn't have any direction for the group, but I did like the Wyatt 6. Completely agree with you, Casper. Wasted opportunity there. I know WWE might look at it and say, well, we tried and we did this, but I think if we're honest, if they're honest with themselves, they could have done a lot more with them. Yeah, there was a lot kind of left behind. Yeah, and as you say, New Day leaving was crazy as well. But as I say, yeah, that does bring us to the end of the show, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in to this weekend kickoff show. I appreciate all the support and the comments that have been flying in, and any that arrive on demand we'll try and get to as well. And as I say, this will be replayed on the build-up show, so make sure you tune in to the build-up show where we'll be breaking down the card last minute, talking about anything that did get added or kind of changed because of SmackDown, and we'll hopefully have some of our friends from the wrestling media world to break down the card as well and talk last minute rumors. But once again, I've been Scott. This has been the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. Thank you so much for tuning in. We will see you on the next one. Cheers, Casper. Thanks.
Welcome to the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. On this channel, we bring you some great content from inside and outside of the squared circle. We will go through and offer some in-depth analysis of the biggest events of the year, as well as bringing you exclusive interviews with some of the industry's biggest names. There will also be live show reviews, in-depth features, and podcasts. So make sure you give that subscribe button a slam so you don't miss any of the action.